since that's the only available
Hello.
Wednesday we've got.
Welcome to the Canyon City Planning Commission meeting Wednesday, May 26, 2021. I now call this meeting to order. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Denise, will you please call roll?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Chairman Maloney,
Here?
Commissioner Clark,
Here.
Commissioner Clement,
Here.
Commissioner Ledoux, Commissioner Moss, Commissioner Souther,
Here. Commissioner
Randy Smith.
Here.
Thank you. So that is, Patrick, that is a quorum, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Item number 2, we have no special presentations. Item number 3, I now ask for approval of minutes from January 27th, 2021 Planning Commission. Does anyone have any corrections to those minutes? No? Okay, I need a motion and a second to approve the minutes, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for January 27th? 6th. All right.
January 27th.
That's what I thought.
January 27th. I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Denise, please call roll.
Certainly. Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Randy Smith,
Here.
Chairman Maloney,
Aye.
Commissioner Clement,
Aye.
Commissioner Souther.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item 4A. Rezoning, 2845, 2847, 2849, and 2851 Central Avenue, and 2798, 2802 Elizabeth Street, from R2 Medium Density Residential to R3 High Density Residential. Case number zone 2021-001. Applicants are Vicky and Michael Pullen. Chief owners, location is fronting both Elizabeth Street and Central Avenue, mid-block between Field Avenue and North Reynolds Avenue. I now open this public hearing. The provisions of the City Municipal Code, and in particular Title 17 thereof, the subdivision regulations, and the comprehensive plan of the City of Canyon City are incorporated into the record of the hearing as if set forth verbatim. Patrick, can we have a report, please?
Certainly. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. This evening, we are here to consider a request by the owner of the lots at 2845, 2847, 2849, and 2851 Central Avenue, as well as 2798 and 2802 Elizabeth Street, to be rezoned from R2 medium density to R3 high density residential. The subject lots are located between Field Avenue and North Reynolds Avenue. 4 of the lots front Central Avenue, the other 2 front Elizabeth Street. Originally platted as part of the Fruitland subdivision in 1991, these lots have been the subject of several recent land use applications. In 2018, the owners subdivided the property into a 5-lot minor subdivision. The following year, these same owners applied to rezone the property from RL Rural Living Residential to R2 Medium Density Residential, and at the same time subdivided the lots on Central Avenue to create 4 lots rather than 2. Their intent was to facilitate the construction of duplex units on those lots. The 6 lots comprise approximately 3.71 acres in area. Although they have a relatively level grade, they sit slightly lower than the grade of Elizabeth Street to the north. The property is currently vacant as all structures on the site were removed in the last 3 years. The applicant seeks to rezone the properties from R2 medium density residential to R3 high density residential as part of an assemblage of property for multifamily residential purposes. The R2 zone does not allow for multifamily residential or densities above 6 dwelling units an acre. The assemblage component of this request is key to understanding the intent. These lots border an existing R3 high-density residential zone district situated immediately west of the subject property, with which the subject property shares an approximately 308-foot border. The owner of the lots under consideration for this rezoning also represents the owner of the existing R3 zone property and has an opportunity to merge these properties to do a true multifamily residential development involving a series of 4-plex units. This is a concept rendering of the fourplex units being contemplated as part of the multifamily residential community on this property, although in your agenda packets, you have images of how these units have actually been built in other locations. The developer who has done these fourplex units elsewhere has expressed interest in building them in Canyon City if there is an appropriately sized parcel. If these properties were merged, it would result in an approximately 13-acre assemblage of land, which would be sufficient to accommodate the multifamily at this location. Now, in terms of evaluating the rezoning request, as defined in section 17.40 of the Canyon City Municipal Code, there are 3 criteria against which rezoning requests must be made. Staff's evaluation of this request found that criteria 1, the land to be rezoned was zoned in error and as previously zoned is inconsistent with the policies and goals of the comprehensive plan, and 2, the area for which the rezoning is requested has changed or is changing to such a degree that it is in the public interest to encourage redevelopment, apply in this circumstance. The rezoning from R2 to R3 is still residential in concept, which means this request does not violate the city's current 2001 adopted comprehensive plan. It does mean an increase in density, which matches the density of the neighboring mobile home park zoning to the north and east. It should also be noted that the multifamily residential is a type of residential that Canyon City has not seen built for a few decades. And it should be noted that given the housing shortages that were identified in the 2019 UACOG study, this is a type of residential development that the region is lacking. So with that in mind, staff recommends the Planning Commission, following a public hearing on this request, cite the 4 findings of fact as certification of Canyon City's jurisdiction to act on the rezoning request for the lots at 2845, 2847, 2849, and 2851 Central Avenue, as well as 2798 and 2802 Elizabeth Street. Staff also recommends that Planning Commission recommend that the City Council approve the rezoning request for the lots as addressed in my previous comment, to R3 high-density residential. That would conclude the staff presentation. As always, I'm happy to answer any questions that Planning Commission may have. Present to speak on behalf of this project is Vicki Pullen, one of the property owners.
Thanks, Patrick. Before we go any further, there's a request to speak to council. Michael Gramoens, are you here? Which item are you speaking on, or is it just a general? Which one? Okay, gotcha. So we'll get through this one, and then I'll let you come up and talk. So are there any questions of the staff from the commission at this time?
I had a question.
Yes.
Patrick, would you mind putting up the slide that had the lots all?
Was this the slide?
No, I think earlier one, that one. Whoop,
Oh, okay.
there you go. So just a question. The 2800 Central Avenue, Unit A, what density is that?
That is not residentially zoned property. That is commercially zoned.
Okay. And then the 2794 Elizabeth, what is that?
That retains an RL Rural Living Residential designation. There is in fact an existing home. That was one of the lots that was sold off after the original minor subdivision in 2018.
Okay. So what we're proposing is that 2794, that is a rural zone, that we would surround it with high-density lots.
Correct.
Okay. Have you heard anything from the owner of that lot, or is that someone in the audience?
I have not gotten any phone calls or inquiries about this project.
Okay, all right. And then just one last question. So just so I'm clear, so the 6 lots that we're talking about tonight, we're going to try to, the goal is to combine them into one lot, and then that's where the one fourplex is going on?
Oh, no, there'll be more than one fourplex.
Okay.
The idea is that they combine the 6 lots that are in sort of the darker orange color with the large R3 zoned property to the west. That's sort of that pinkish color. That would make a 13-acre assemblage of ground, and from that, they would do a community that had several of the fourplex units. And that would be part of an overall site plan and subdivision concept that would involve how they're going to handle interior circulation. So all of that has yet to come in the process, should the rezoning request be approved.
Okay, thank you, Patrick.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I have a
sir.
couple of questions, actually. In this format you talked about earlier, refresh my mind, in that 13 acres, you can have a fourplex on 1 acre?
You can have, well, the setbacks will pretty much dictate how many units you can have, but there can be a lot more than one. There can be as many as 10 or 15.
So even if you just had one, we're looking at 52 units on that section of property?
We mean one, define what you're considering one unit. Is it one
A
fourplex building?
A fourplex.
So they'll be able to have several fourplex buildings.
Okay, well, my concern there is traffic. In and out of this area, Elizabeth is a very narrow street and at this point in time, very difficult with traffic. Central, on the other hand, is definitely a high-traffic area. We went through this issue with the Central Avenue Unit A property when we talked about that whole scenario in conjunction with the school, the lack of traffic light, the lack of in and out at the intersection, and the length of traffic backup at peak hours. Is that a consideration that's been?
It is a consideration, and it will come into play when we actually have a development proposal that indicates how many units are actually going to be built here. And from that, how much traffic each unit is going to generate, and therefore what, if any, off-site public improvements would need to be made to surrounding roads.
Okay, thank you.
Any others? Any comments from the audience? Mrs. Pullen, do you want to come up and say anything?
Good evening, my name's Vicki Pullen, 1045 Indiana Avenue in Canyon City. I've come before you several times on the subject properties, also known as Central Park Subdivision, located on Central Avenue east of Field. My efforts over the last 2.5 years were spent subdividing, rezoning, advertising, and marketing on the local, state, and national levels through Rob Brown at FEDC, Michael Yerman at SCED, Rick Harmon at Canyon City Economic Development, online at various state and national opportunity zones, enterprise zones, urban renewal sites, and I also asked Ryan Stevens to post it anywhere that he could post it. I've been promoting this site through websites, other realtors, MLS, the Shopper Daily Record, and personal contact with as many builders as I could reach, both locally and in the surrounding areas. Included in discussions, I even offered terms and joint venture opportunities. My goal was to offer as many incentives to make the site more attractive for developers or investors to come to Canyon City and start building before the housing shortage happened. For whatever personal reasons, there was no interest at the time. My vision was not theirs. I'm still the owner of these great properties. Then COVID happened and everything seemed to stop. Now the demographics of our area is exploding with new businesses, new residents, and hopefully this year many more new tourists. Our housing industry, however, is in crisis mode. Never before that I'm aware of has the market been as accelerated or pricey as it is today in Canyon City. When houses do come available, many are gone in a day. With multiple bidders, rental properties are gone in hours. There's none to be had. Finally, there's some interest in the project. I received a letter of intent to purchase all of my properties, including the corner, which I also own the commercial corner, if there were 4 contingencies. First, I provide an introduction to any contacts at the city familiar with the project. Second, I provide an introduction to the adjacent property owner so that they can negotiate and hopefully reach a successful compromise on price, terms, whatever. I was not involved in any of the negotiations. Third, I provide assistance with local development requirements, for example, survey, title, city planning requirements, coordination of meetings, notices, and attendance at those meetings, all of which I have completed. And lastly, number 4, the city approves the rezoning of duplex lots to R3, consistent with the 7.5 acres adjacent to the west, which they're also trying to acquire to build townhomes, multi-units that we are desperately in need of in Canyon City. The proposed intent is to negotiate and combine approximately 13.7 acres for development of much-needed multifamily units, targeting the missing middle income bracket, and also a business opportunity for the commercial corner. My properties are not located in the downtown corridor, nor the Riverwalk improvement area, but I am located in the city limits with one of the last large development sites on existing city utilities. I have no grants, no funding, and no other resources that I can access. I have done everything I can, and now I need the city's help to continue on to try and get something in there that we desperately need. I don't know at this time what the projected revenue to the city in tax dollars or monetary influence to our community will be. I do know for the last several years, my personal property tax has increased 7-fold, which I have gladly paid. I do know that the development is needed to start as soon as possible. I do know it would be a great asset in addressing our housing needs. I do know that this zone change will be compatible with the larger property directly adjacent, which will allow a variety of housing options without coming back to the board again and planning and council repeatedly trying to get something for the highest and best use of this property. Lastly, I do know that it would be greatly appreciated if the city would approve the request one more time and rezone this to R3 high density so that something can move forward to help out the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
And does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
I just have basic comments. You've been here before, obviously. Was it 2 years ago?
2 years ago,
Did we go
1
from
year.
an R1 to an R2?
2018
We
to
went from an RL to an R2.
2.
Right, so, and obviously that hasn't panned out because of various reasons. So the next step is to go to the R3 high density, and you said you do have some potentials for that?
I received a letter of intent that specified these 4 things that I need to do for this nonprofit group to move forward. They are out of Denver area. Their idea is to coordinate the assemblage of properties to do townhomes or whatever. Patrick did speak with one of them early on that provided the housing pictures and basically what they were looking at doing. I did advise them of the meeting schedule, hoping they'd be down to address any questions. I'm not privy to any information on their negotiations with anybody else on the adjacent large parcel. So I only am trying to comply with what they wanted me to do, and that was my 4 things. And planning commission approval is the very last thing that I have to do, and see if they'll move forward from there.
So it's up to us.
It's up to you.
Well,
Finally.
I didn't see any problem last time because as far as I'm concerned, I believe we do need housing here. So with our percentage of, as you said, no rentals, no property to be had, everything's skyrocketing. So if we do have some potentials, and there's not much you can do with rural property anymore. I mean, we can't do cows, horses, anything else like that, so what else is there?
Exactly why I came before you before. I got nothing positive from builders. Everything's, they wanted smaller lots. I gave them smaller lots. They wanted smaller lots. I couldn't give them smaller lots. Now basically they want to erase everything I've done and start over and just rezone it to R3 so they can use the property more efficiently, I guess you would say, without setbacks for every single parcel. They could design it efficiently. It's not to be Section 8 housing, and it's not to be very high-priced homes. It's to address the missing middle, and those are the ones having trouble. They can't qualify for $400,000 and $500,000 on a home anymore, and that's where our target's at.
I believe the only thing we can do is go from that proposed, or the current R2 to the proposed R3. After that, after it's out of our hands, then the actual development is gonna have to go before the city again.
Correct.
For the intricate things, which we can't control, because obviously the fire department's gonna be wanting fire hydrants, there's gonna be probably some electrical issues, things like that, that all the other departments are gonna take care of. So as far as I'm concerned, I think we can do our part, but the rest of it, there's gonna be a long road for you.
Well, I would appreciate it if the city would jump in at any time, because I'm basically worn out from trying to do this on my own. I don't have anywhere else to turn. So if city wants housing to accommodate more residents and more tax dollars, I guess we have to come up with it somewhere. And I can't approve that, so.
Now you're making me feel guilty.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pullen.
may I make a comment to applicant?
Sure.
With all due respect to the request and the information you pass on, I don't believe the negotiated aspects of your presentation is something we can be indulged in. Our role as the Planning Commission is just to acquire zoning, approve zoning, and make recommendations to the city council in relationship to the city, nothing to do with your personal negotiations with any other company.
No, I'm not asking you
Okay,
to
well,
do that.
it gave the impression, because you kept mentioning it would help me out, it would help my negotiation out. We have nothing to do with that.
No, it would help the city out if you did
I
that,
agree with that.
not me.
Okay.
That's why I mentioned all we could do is just approve the zoning. That's all we
Right,
can do.
we have to be careful with,
Right.
Okay, let's move on to that then.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm sorry. Are there any additional comments or questions, Brian?
I had a comment.
Who's it? Yes, sir.
I do like the idea that the developer's a nonprofit developer. To me, that's important, because they're not going to be looking for making the high profit that a other type of developer would.
Good point. Any other questions or concerns before I close this public hearing? Nope. Okay, I now close the public hearing. At this time, I call for a motion and a second on the request based upon the findings of fact.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we move that the Planning Commission adopt the 4 findings of fact as stated by the staff report.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Denise, please call roll.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Maloney?
Aye.
Commissioner Clement?
Aye.
Commissioner Suther?
Aye.
Okay,
In addition,
I just closed this public hearing. Is it about what we just discussed?
Well, so I just have a question. Can I ask the board a question, please?
Up at the podium, please.
So that I know where to address this issue? Along the line, our privacy fence line, if you could pull up this screen real quick, there is a row of trees, and they are building a fence from Central on up the property line and enclosing trees there, and nobody's going to be able to take care of them. Nobody's gonna be able to take care of them. Is that the kind of care we're gonna get in the building of this place?
Ma'am, could you
Ma'am.
state your name and your address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Jill Anderson, and I live at 2864 Villa Lane, Canyon City, Colorado. And there are trees along this whole line, and they're slowly building a new fence between the private, like here's the privacy fence, here they're building, and there are trees all along here. And they're enclosing these trees that are just gonna get buggy and dirty, and they're gross. They don't need to. The
Miss-
ones on our property,
Ms. Anderson, I closed this hearing. I did ask if there were any comments from the audience earlier. At this time, this still has to go to city council for approval. You're more than welcome to
is
address.
that where I would approach this?
We're
Because I don't know
recommending
who to
approval
approach
to
this
city
with.
council, but
They
it will,
are going into my electric lines. We had to call Black Hills Energy. We had to call Black Hills Energy out because the trees have lowered our electric lines. And those trees have lowered our pole. We had to buy a new pole, put up all new electric lines, and you can't even see them because of the trees. And they suggested that we get the property owner, would be, I'm sorry, Vicky, to remove all those trees for safety's sake, for our safety and the safety of all the electrician in that whole subdivision there. And this is a fact.
Ms. Anderson, at this
Where can I
time, you're
go?
probably going to have to address city council at this point.
I will do that. Thank you for guiding me, but I'm telling you what I'm saying. We don't mind it being rezoned.
Okay.
We don't, okay?
It's something they will consider, and you can bring photographs, you can bring your
do.
concerns. All you do is let them
And
know
how
ahead
do
of
I find
time.
out where and when this is?
Agendas will be posted on the canyoncity.org website.
CanyonCity.org
You
website?
can, you can pull up all the agendas and dates for all the city council meetings and what they're going to be discussing.
This is a very important issue, that if that lot, thank you, yes, that if it's gonna be built on, let's build on it correctly, not haphazard. Let's not build some bunch of junk on there that's gonna fall apart. Let's build a nice facility on nice land,
We all hope
To be
that's,
proud of
we all
Canyon
hope that's
City.
what happens, yes.
okay? And that's my main concern, and I appreciate you listening to me and guiding me to where I need to know. But I thought each of you should know this information. You can drive by the lot and see what I'm talking about. Please do.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
You tear those trees down.
At this time, I now call for a motion and a second to recommend approval to city council.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council for the City of Canyon City approve the rezoning request for the 6 lots located at 2854, 2847, 2849, and 2851 Central Avenue, as well as 2798 and 2802 Elizabeth Street to R3 High Density Residential.
Mr. Chairman, I would second that with the amendment. I think the first one was 2845. I think you inversed the numbers.
Did I?
I believe
Well,
so.
I probably did.
Good catch.
Yeah.
So I amend that to 2845.
Then I second it. That's my job.
All right. Any further discussion on this item? Denise, please call roll.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Maloney?
Aye.
Commissioner Clement?
Aye.
Commissioner Suther?
Aye.
Thank you. We do have a request to speak to council. Michael, Mr. Gramonis, if you'd like to come up to the podium, now's your time. Gramowski, I'm sorry.
My name is Mike Gromowski. I live in Dawson Ranch up on Greenhorn Drive, 463 Greenhorn. The reason I'm here tonight is because we learned that this parcel was being considered for rezoning about 2.5 weeks ago. And it's adjacent to Dawson Ranch for about 600 feet. And then it's also runs along Forge Road, so it's in a way adjacent to Wolf Park as well. after lots of discussion, the HOA board up in Dawson Ranch concluded that it would be a good thing to go ahead and do this zoning because R1 is very, very similar to the types of housing in both Dawson Ranch and Wolf Park. And it eliminates the prospect of industrial use in that corridor instead, which could be a mess. We did have 3 questions, I think largely for you, Patrick. The R1 zoning requirements are fairly vague. Will there be, if Mr. Langston is successful at selling his property to a developer, will that developer have to come forward with a more detailed plan? Would that go to the commission or the planning commission? Or the council or the planning commission?
That would depend upon the complexity of the plan and whether there are any public improvements being proposed, like internal streets that the city would ultimately
He would have to do that.
own and maintain, yes.
He would have to do that, and I'm not sure if he'd have to go get the city to approve it, but that's the way Dawson Ranch is, so I think that's probably what they would try to do. So if there's anything about that property use that would be objectionable to either the residents of Dawson Ranch or the residents of Wolf Park, we'd be able to speak at that council meeting.
Of course.
Okay.
You would get the same notice that went out for this hearing.
Okay,
And maybe we'll go through the hearing right now. Maybe that'll answer some questions for you.
right. So again, we think it's a good idea, and we think there are many benefits to making this zoning change.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Item 4B, rezoning 2203 Forge Road from L District Light Industrial to R1 Low Density Residential. Case number zone 2021-002, applicants Michael and Zach Langston, owner and owner's representative. The location is the west side of Forge Road, approximately 720, is that feet, Patrick?
Yes.
North of the intersection of Forge Road and Ferris Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
I now open this public hearing. The provisions of the city municipal code and in particular Title 17 thereof, the subdivision regulations and the comprehensive plan of the city of Canyon City are incorporated into the record of the hearing as if set forth verbatim. Can we please have a staff report?
Certainly. Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission, our second public hearing this evening is also a rezoning request for a property located at 2203 Forge Road. The property owner is seeking to change the zoning from I-District Light Industrial to R1 Low Density Residential. The subject property is situated on the west side of Forge Road behind the Interroll plant. It has a meets and bounds legal description which indicates that it has not previously been the subject of any subdivision request, and it appears to have been created in its current configuration after the establishment of the Interroll property. The property is approximately 41.33 acres in area and surrounds the Interroll plant on 3 sides. It has a varied terrain with several hills on site and lots of native trees and shrubs throughout. It is accessed in 2 places. First, from a driveway off Forge Road, located south of the Interroll building, and the second via an unimproved right-of-way on the property's northern boundary. Its status as an industrial lot appears to date back to the 1980s. The property is currently vacant and unimproved. An analysis of the context of the zoning reveals the degree to which surrounding residential land uses play in determining what use best suits this site. On the east side of Forge Road is Wolf Park subdivision. R1 low-density residential borders this site to the south, and to the west you have an R3 high-density residential parcel with an existing single-family residential home. And, as you heard earlier, the Dawson Ranch Plan Development, a large lot, single-family residential development, borders this property to the west as well. The only industrial parcels located nearby are the Interroll plant, which this property surrounds, and the administrative offices for Howard Disposal located to the north. It should be additionally noted that the current comprehensive plan, which was updated in 2001, shows this parcel as residential, not industrial. That land use recommendation is also depicted on the comprehensive plan currently being updated. Staff believes the potential for land use conflicts is far greater if this property develops to what the current I light industrial zone allows versus what can be permitted in R1, low-density residential. And the potential now exists because of the history of residential development around the property. Now, in evaluating this rezoning request, again, we start with the characteristics of section 17.40 and the 3 criteria for rezonings that are specified in that paragraph. Staff's evaluation of this request, similar to the first item, is that criteria 1, the land to be rezoned was zoned in error and as presently zoned is inconsistent with the policies and goals of the comprehensive plan, and 2, that the area for which this rezoning is requested has changed or is changing to such a degree that it is in the public interest to encourage redevelopment apply. Both the current and anticipated comprehensive plan identify this property as residential in character, and the history of how residential uses have been encroaching on this property for decades supports this identification. Coupled with the reality of the high potential for land use conflicts should this property be developed for the light industrial zone district allows as permitted uses, a down zoning to R1 low-density residential would seem to be appropriate. So with that in mind, staff recommends that the Planning Commission, following a public hearing on this request, cite the 4 findings of fact as certification of Canyon City's jurisdiction to act on the rezoning request for 2203 Forge Road. Staff also recommends that Planning Commission recommend that City Council approve the rezoning request for the 2203 Forge Road property to R1 low-density residential. That would conclude the staff presentation. As always, I'm happy to answer any questions that Planning Commission may have. The Langstons are both here this evening, should you have any questions for them.
Thank you. Any questions of staff from the commission? Mr. Langston, Ms. Langston, would you like to come up and say anything? Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to call you Mrs. Langston.
Just Mr. and
Thank you, Zach Langston with Langston Concrete, Mike Langston, Langston Concrete as well, out of Florence. Mike owns the land, I do all the paperwork.
How you doing,
I'd like
Jerry?
to start saying thanks to the Dawson Ranch Homeowners Association and Wolf Park, if you guys talked to them, that was pleasant, I wasn't expecting that. Thank you. Nothing really to add, that's not in the project narrative. It's been light industrial for quite some time. We've tried a couple different avenues. The land was originally purchased to put our own yard and lot there for our equipment and formwork materials, and it didn't work out that way. So it's been sitting for quite some time, as just about everybody around there knows. And in retrospect to everything that's going on with housing shortage and all that fun stuff, I don't think I need to repeat all of that. We think that it would be very much so better suited for that and the ability to have something done with it other than just sit vacant for another 20 years. And respectively, if I was a light industrial guy looking to move into Canyon City, that would probably be the last place that I would pick, right next to the newest housing developments in the county. So
Zach, can you grab that mic over there so we get it recorded, what you're saying?
sorry. Other than that, I don't think we have anything else other to add.
how long have you owned the property?
Since '09.
And it was originally kind of zoned as residential, but then it kind of fell into light industrial, or?
Not as far as I know. I believe from his staff report, it looks like it's been that way since the 80s.
It looks like it was a carved-off piece when the Interroll plant was developed, and it retained the industrial zoning that the Interroll property still has.
How many acres is it?
41.3 approximately.
It's an odd shape.
It will definitely be a challenge to develop, yes.
It looks small. There is room there, though.
No, I have no problem with that. I'm just saying it would have more potential, like you said, rather than industrial, it would have more potential as residential or,
Yeah.
you know,
Our thoughts were larger lots, not smaller lots, not try to cram as many homes as you possibly could into there. So, I mean, you could certainly just start dicing it from north to south or south to north and really tighten a lot of stuff in there, but we're really not fans of that kind of development necessarily, so a little bit bigger pieces wherever it makes sense.
I had a question, Mr. Chairman. What currently happens at the plant?
At where?
At the plant adjacent to there?
They make conveyor rollers, conveyor belt parts.
I understand one of their, well, airports are their a number of their customers for the conveyor belts when you're getting your luggage at luggage claim.
oh,
Thank you.
We tried to sell it to them, they weren't interested.
Not big enough belt?
Yeah.
all right.
All right, any other questions of the applicants? Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Any comments from the audience? Okay, any further discussion before I close the hearing? Okay, I now close this public hearing. At this time, I now call for a motion and a second on the request based upon the findings of fact.
Mr. Chairman, I move the Planning Commission adopt the 4 findings of fact as stated in the staff report.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a second. Denise, will you please call roll?
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Suther?
Aye.
Chairman Maloney?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Clement?
Aye.
All right, thanks. Good luck, guys.
I think, did
We
you
got
vote on the
one
rezoning as well?
We got one more.
One more step. I always forget, we have to ask city council to approve it too. I need a motion and a second to recommend approval to city council, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to do that as well. I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council for the City of Canyon City approve the rezoning request for 2205 Forge Road to R1 Low Density Residential.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you. No further discussion that I can see.
I'm sorry?
It's wrong on our paper.
I
may
may,
have to
that may
bring
be
that
a
up to-
typo. I had 5 staff reports to do in 3 days, so I was.
Can we,
We can amend that to
amend.
2203.
so we have a motion and a second as amended.
I second that.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Gromowski.
Please call roll, Denise.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Chairman Maloney?
Aye.
Commissioner Clement?
Aye.
Commissioner Suther?
Aye.
Okay, now, thank you, guys.
At least yours wasn't dyslexic.
4C, moving along. Special review use, ADU at 826 Griffin Avenue, case number SRU 2021-001. Applicant is Deborah Renz, Macon LLC, who's the owner. The location is Griffin Avenue, approximately 415 feet west of South 9th Street and Highway 115. I now open this public hearing. The provisions of the city municipal code and in particular Title 17 thereof, the subdivision regulations, and the comprehensive plan of the city of Canyon City are incorporated into the record of the hearing as of set forth verbatim. May we have a staff report, please, Patrick?
Certainly. Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission, our 3rd public hearing this evening is a request for approval of a special review use to allow an accessory dwelling unit at 826 Griffin Avenue. Subject property is located mid-block in the 800 block of Griffin Avenue, adjacent to an abandoned railroad right-of-way. It is zoned R1 low-density residential, as is the entire neighborhood west of these railroad tracks. The lot in question is approximately 16,211 square feet in area, so it exceeds the minimum lot size for our R1 zoning district. The existing home on site was built in 1898. The lot faces Griffin Avenue, but can be accessed via a lot to the rear. It should be noted that the abandoned railroad right-of-way also provides pedestrian access to this property. In addition to the existing home, there is an accessory structure which has served previously as a carport and garage structure. Accessory dwelling units are second dwelling units located on a property with a principal dwelling unit already on site. Canyon City has generally been accepting of ADUs, given that the city has a lack of quality attainable housing. In Canyon City's current zoning code, ADUs are processed as special review uses so as to ensure that they do not impact quality of life for surrounding properties in the neighborhood. As you may be aware, in the new land use code that we're currently drafting, those will become conditional use permits which will not require public hearings. The applicant is proposing to convert the old carport and detached garage structure into an accessory dwelling unit structure. That would give the ADU a front door out to the abandoned railroad right-of-way, which, as I mentioned, currently serves as pedestrian access between blocks in this neighborhood. Now, in reviewing of the special review application, as defined in section 1724.030B of the Canyon City Municipal Code, special review uses are evaluated against 6 criteria ranging from size and location to traffic generation and parking to buffering to the potential to generate nuisance conditions upon neighborhoods. Staff has evaluated this ADU proposal against these 6 criteria and found that the proposed ADU will be harmonious and in keeping with the residential nature of the subject property and will not create land use conflicts for surrounding properties. Staff recommends that Planning Commission cite the 4 findings of fact as listed on page 6 of the staff report as evidence of the city's jurisdiction to conduct a public hearing on this request. Staff also recommends that Planning Commission recommend that City Council approve the proposed special review use for an ADU at 826 Griffin Avenue. And that will conclude the staff presentation. As always, I'm happy to answer any question that Planning Commission may have. I'm looking around the room, but I'm not seeing Deborah Renz here in the audience, and I know she knew about the meeting this evening.
Chairman, I do have a question.
Go for it.
Patrick, this is actually going to be a residence or a business?
This will be a residence. It will
Okay.
be 2 residences on the property.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
I have one. Is it going to be gutted and reformed, or is it going to be just modified?
So the existing residence that's there has been in the process of being renovated for some time. The owner also wanted to convert this existing carport and garage structure, which you can see in this lower picture down here. It's the blue structure right there. They want to convert that into a residence, a second residence on the property. That building is in serious need of an upgrade in order to do that, and they are pending building permits to begin that project. Obviously, they can't do that under the residential code until they get zoning approval for the ADU.
Was that built in 1898 as well? or-
I don't believe that dates back to 1898. I think that's a much more recent structure, 1940s.
So as far as the modifications, we're looking at plumbing, electricity, and
Oh,
all
yes.
that?
Oh, yes.
So it might have to be gutted.
Oh, it will probably be taken down to the studs and rebuilt.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions?
Will the parking be added in the back there in the alley?
They have adequate parking available on-site, alley access. They don't really have any other way to get to that portion of the property.
Okay, thank you.
Patrick, a few weeks ago, we had a conversation with you about ADUs, and I remember you saying at that time that the space requirements, 350 square feet, it was the minimum that an ADU could be. And so I am assuming all of that would apply to this home, that it's at least 350 square feet?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And we'll have all the water and the utilities and all those things that, okay.
They will have to pull a building permit, and as part of that building permit, they will have to make sure that they confirm utilities are available for it. They will have to, connect it to electricity, water, natural gas, et cetera. Obviously, they're going to have to make sure that they meet minimum size requirements for the room and the type of room that it's going to have within the structure. All of that comes into play at the building permit level.
And pass all the inspections and the codes as well, so.
Yeah.
Well, and I'd like to add, there's already electricity to that building. There's no current water or sewer, but that'll have to be added. It's already on the property, it'll just be extended.
Thank you, Patrick.
Sure.
Any comments from the audience? Any further discussion before I close this hearing? Okay, I'll now close this public hearing. Now call for a motion and a second on the request based upon the findings of fact, please.
I move the Planning Commission adopts the 4 findings of facts regarding the proposed special review use for an ADU at 826 Griffin Avenue.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Denise, will you please call roll?
Certainly. Commissioner Clement?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Maloney, or Chairman Maloney, sorry.
Aye.
Commissioner Suther?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Now call for a motion and a second to recommend approval to City Council, please.
I can do that one. I move the Planning Commission recommend the City Council approve the special review use for an ADU at 826 Griffin Avenue.
Second.
Thank you. I don't think we have any further discussion. Denise, will you please call roll?
Commissioner Clement?
Aye.
Commissioner Suther?
Aye.
Chairman Maloney?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
And Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item 4D, special review use, ADU at 2773 Cherry Street, case number SRU 2021-002. Owners Kurt and Paula Peterson. Location is northwest corner of the intersection of Cherry Street and Gradine Avenue. I now open this public hearing. Provisions of the city municipal code and in particular Title 17 thereof, subdivision regulations, and the comprehensive plan of the city of Canyon City are incorporated into the record of the hearing as of set forth verbatim. Patrick, can we have a staff report, please?
Certainly. Before we begin, I need to draw your attention to a typo that exists in the staff report. On the first page, it lists the address for case number SRU 2021-002 as 315 North 19th Street. In fact, it is 2773 Cherry Street. I learned a valuable lesson about converting files from Word to PDF. It only grabs the most recently saved version of the document when it does that, so I apologize for that typo. Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission, our 4th public hearing this evening is a request for approval of a special review use to allow an accessory dwelling unit at 2773 Cherry Street. The subject property is located at the northwest corner of Cherry Street and North Reynolds Avenue. It was platted as Lot 21, Reynolds Subdivision in East Canyon in 1965 before being annexed into Canyon City in the early 1970s when East Canyon disincorporated. The property is approximately 21,033.8 square feet in area, which exceeds the minimum lot size for a residential lot in the R1 low-density residential zoning district. It has effectively 2 driveway cuts to Cherry Street, a paved driveway in front of the house capable of parking 2 vehicles, and a gravel driveway immediately west of the paved one leading to a detached carport. This gravel driveway is capable of parking at least 6 vehicles. Accessory dwelling units are secondary dwelling units located on a property with a principal dwelling unit already in sight. Canyon City has generally been accepting of ADUs given that the city has a lack of quality attainable housing. In Canyon City's current zoning code, ADUs are processed as special review uses to ensure that they do not impact quality of life for surrounding properties in the neighborhood. The applicant is proposing to create a second dwelling unit in a new building generally located behind or to the north of the existing carport on site. You are not seeing the carport in this aerial because it appears to be something that was added after 2016, which is when this particular photograph dates from. Now, special review uses, in terms of their evaluation, again, as defined in section 1724.030B of the Canyon City Municipal Code, special review uses are evaluated against 6 criteria ranging from size and location to traffic generation and parking to buffering to the potential to generate nuisance conditions upon neighbors. Staff has evaluated this ADU proposal against those 6 criteria and found that the proposed ADU will be harmonious and in keeping with the residential nature of the subject property and will not create land use conflicts for surrounding properties. Staff therefore recommends that Planning Commission cite the 4 findings of fact as listed on page 6 of the staff report as evidence of the city's jurisdiction to conduct a public hearing on this request. Staff also recommends that Planning Commission recommend that City Council approve the proposed special review use for an ADU at 2773 Cherry Street. That would conclude the staff presentation. As always, I'm happy to answer any questions that Planning Commission may have. Also present to speak on this project is Paula Peterson, one of the owners of the property.
Thank you. I knew Paula was going to jump up as soon as she was allowed to talk. How are you?
I'm great. Does he get to go first?
Well, we can certainly start with you if you have anything to say about the project, and then we'll.
Well, basically, you know, in a nutshell, this is my hometown. I've been back here for like 12 years now, I think, 13, I don't know, something like that. We realize that there is a shortage of rentals in Fremont County. Having been involved with healthcare industry, and being on some boards with the hospital and different things within the community, what I always heard was there was a lack of professional housing. So our goal is to build this unit and reach out to Centura and Solvista and the traveling nurses and try and do some relocation housing for medical professionals, something to that. So it would be long-term, but it would be more to attract people to our area, and I'll tell them all about how wonderful Fremont County is.
Thanks, Paula.
Are you, excuse me, I have a question. It mentions that you wanted to build like a little 2-bedroom cottage, and you mentioned Solvista Health and all that. Would this be like a kind of a transition or a rental for medical staff?
Yeah,
or?
so basically what we were thinking were, you know, they used to call them travelers. I don't know if that's the term that they're using now, but I know St. Thomas More Centura is calling it relocation housing now. And so what it is for visiting doctors, nurses, physical therapists, medical staff. They'll do like a 6-month contract, and so they provide their housing for them. Or if they have doctors or someone moving to the area, they will actually provide them with housing until they can find and secure their own housing. And that's been a big issue because we don't have any short-term housing available. So yeah.
Any other questions of the applicant?
I did have one. That current carport, is that not going to be a conversion? It's just going to be a...
Oh, no.
Okay.
We did a conversion a few years ago of our current garage, and I don't like scraping snow off my windshield.
All right.
So, you know, I got a carport.
Thank you.
Yes.
Paula, I just want to say thank you. It's exciting to see that our community is really looking at ADUs, and it's exciting to see that it's on our agenda, and housing is something that we desperately need for everyone. No matter what your income is extremely difficult to find housing. So thank you for doing this. I appreciate that.
Yes. Well, and just, you know, it'll be decorated in a Buckskin Joe kind of motif. I'm collecting movie pictures, so.
I'm sure it'll be beautiful, and you're right, Fremont County is the best state, or the best county in Colorado to live, so
Yes.
thank you for doing this.
All right, thank you, Paula.
You're welcome.
I'm going to cut you off because I know you'll just keep talking.
I'll tell Lori to sit around.
Do we have any questions of the staff? Any comments from the audience? Okay. I now close this public hearing. And ask for a motion and a second on the request based upon the findings of facts, please.
I'll move that the Planning Commission adopt the 4 findings of fact regarding the proposed special review use for an ADU at 2773 Cherry Street.
I'll second that.
Okay. I don't think there's any further discussion. Denise, will you please call roll?
Sure. Commissioner Suther?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Chairman Maloney?
Aye.
Commissioner Clement?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, I now call for a motion and a second to recommend approval to City Council.
I move the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council approve the special review use for an ADU at 2773 Cherry Street.
I can second.
Okay. Denise, please call roll.
Commissioner Suther?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Maloney?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Clement?
Aye.
All right. Thanks, Paula. Paula, you're all set? Well, almost all set.
Now all you gotta do is build it, and they will come.
That's what this guy's for. Hey, I know they'll come. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you. Item 4E, special review use, 315 North 19th Street, case number SRU 2021-003. Owners are Jerry and Beverly Merlino. Location is west side of North 19th Street, approximately 270 feet north of the intersection of North 19th Street and Franklin Avenue. Now open this public hearing. The provisions of the city municipal code and in particular Title 17 thereof, the subdivision regulations, and the comprehensive plan of the city of Canyon City are incorporated into the record of this hearing as of set forth verbatim. Patrick, can we have a staff report, please?
Certainly. Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission, our final public hearing this evening is a request for approval of a special review use to allow an accessory dwelling unit at 315 North 19th Street. Subject property is located on the west side of North 19th Street, approximately 250 feet north of the intersection of North 19th and Franklin Avenue. This lot was platted as Parcel A of the Park Avenue subdivision. The county assessor's records indicate that the existing residence on site was constructed in 1993. The property is approximately 33,869 square feet, which is also well in excess of minimum lot sizes for R1 zoned lots. The property is situated in a portion of Canyon City where large lot residential is the norm. Franklin Avenue serves the role of a transitional street, separating the large lot residential from the highway-oriented uses to the south. It should also be noted that many of the lots taking access from North 19th Street in this area are flag lots in configuration. That is, their skinniest portion is their street frontage, and the lot gets wider as it transitions back from the street. The lot south of the subject property is a similarly shaped flag lot, and it is under the same ownership as the subject property. Now, as you've already heard this evening twice before, I'll just repeat it again. I'm sorry, I have to do that. Accessory dwelling units are secondary dwelling units located on a property with a principal dwelling unit already on site. Canyon City has generally been accepting of ADUs given that the city has a lack of quality attainable housing. Canyon City's current zoning code, ADUs are processed as special review uses to ensure that they do not impact quality of life for surrounding properties in the neighborhood. The applicant is proposing to create a second dwelling unit in a new building situated in what is presently the front yard, although it will be set back far more than the minimum required 25 feet for all structures. The lot is large enough to encompass this new structure and to accommodate parking for the principal residence and the accessory residence. Now, with that, special reviews, as you know, are identified under Section 1724030B of the Canyon City Municipal Code. Special review uses are evaluated against 6 criteria ranging from size and location to traffic generation and parking to buffering to the potential to generate nuisance conditions upon neighbors. Staff has evaluated this ADU proposal against those 6 criteria and found that the proposed ADU will be harmonious and in keeping with the residential nature of the subject property and will not create land use conflicts for surrounding properties. Staff therefore recommends that Planning Commission cite the 4 findings of fact as listed on page 6 of the staff report as evidence of the city's jurisdiction to conduct a public hearing on this request. Staff also recommends that Planning Commission recommend that City Council approve the proposed special review use for an ADU at 315 North 19th Street. That would conclude the staff presentation. As always, I'm happy to answer any questions that Planning Commission may have. And I believe Jerry Merlino, the property owner, is here to speak on this project as well.
Thank you, Patrick. Do we have any questions of staff?
Just as a point of humor, do we have any idea on the impact it'll have on our overpopulated deer population, cutting this grassland out? I'm just kidding.
I would have to research that and get back to you, Councilmember.
They'll just move.
Any other questions, comments, jokes? Mr. Merlino, do you have anything to say about the project that we haven't addressed so far?
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're
No.
not? You're the only ones here.
They're just visiting.
You could have walked up and just said a bunch of stuff. We would have
Yeah,
never
we'd
known.
never know. We do too, yeah. Is there any negative effect? I mean, obviously, we've put the signs up and the notifications, there's no neighbors, there's no conflict of interest or anything, everybody's
I
good?
did get a phone call inquiry from the neighbor across the street from this property wanting to know what this was. And when I explained it's essentially a second dwelling unit, she was at that point completely uninterested in pursuing the matter further. She was fine with it. To the extent that there's a downside, what typically happens is that when you do something like a second dwelling unit on a property, you've added value to the property. You've increased its value. And there's generally a property tax implication for that when you do that. But the homeowner goes into this with their eyes open that if this is something they'll want to pursue, that's likely to be a consequence down the road.
Just saying, for instance, if the Molinos do build this ADU, and then they decide to sell their house, how is the ADU connected? Is it all?
It is
still one
part of the
parcel.
property.
It all goes with property. So
it
if somebody's
is- yeah.
living in the ADU, then they might have to get out or
That
renegotiate?
would probably be the terms of negotiation for a future buyer as to whether they could continue to rent or whether they have to leave by the closing date of the sale. That's all contingent to the negotiation between the seller and the buyer.
It just seems like this is the third one tonight, which is good, like
Well-
like Dee Dee said, but
Well, let me say this, on that particular street, there's probably 4 examples of this style setup.
oh, we need more housing, so, even if it's 900 square feet.
A lot of the properties on that side of the street have these type of setups.
Any comments from the audience?
And they can be used
They
that way.
could be, they can be. I might be here next month getting ADU approval.
And there's definite tax consequence to doing an Airbnb.
Right.
Fremont County Assessor's Office scans those websites for local properties that get listed, and when they find them, they presume that that means the property is now commercial in nature rather than residential because of the short-term rentals, so they change the tax rate on the property to commercial.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate consequence, but anyway, not our problem.
Not our concern.
All right, before I close the public hearing, do we have any more comments or questions? Okay, I now close this public hearing. At this time, I call for a motion and a second on the request based upon the findings of fact.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Planning Commission adopt the 4 findings of fact regarding the proposed special review use for ADU at 315 North 19th Street.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
She would be horrible on Jeopardy, I'm telling you. Okay, Denise, please call roll.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Maloney?
Aye.
Commissioner Clement?
Aye.
Commissioner Suther?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Now call for a motion and a second to recommend approval to City Council.
Go ahead, Dee Dee.
I move the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council approve the special review use for an ADU at 315 North 19th Street.
Second.
Who said that?
Way down there.
Oh, okay. All right, Denise, please call roll.
Commissioner Clement,
Aye.
Commissioner Suther,
Aye.
Chairman Maloney,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
All right. So the Merlinos are not here to say thank you, but if they're watching, thank you. Item number 5, do we have any announcements or any further discussion?
Just to let you know, later this week, you will be getting a notification that the second night, considering the final 6 chapters of the new Unified Development Code, we will be scheduling that for next Wednesday, June 2nd. Again, I apologize, this may be another night that goes to around 9 p.m., but this is not something that you want to rush your way through. These are important regulations.
Please send a Zoom. I will be on the road.
Okay?
I will be out of town.
If you'd like, you can Zoom into the meeting, too. We will send out Zoom invitations.
I may be at a wedding rehearsal dinner, so I'll try. I got it on my phone, so I can try to chime in for a little while, but I can't promise anything.
Put a headphone in.
Can you convey to the bride the city's disappointment?
You call my wife and tell her. It's her niece.
Way to scapegoat.
All right, if that's all, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.